This is episode 663, alongside with my new co-host making her debut, Alyssa Charleston. She's a Pac-12 reporter. I'm really excited to have her on board as a co-host, and we're joined by a special guest, not only a two-time Super Bowl champ, but he has his podcast with Patrick Peterson, the one and only Bryant McFadden from the Steelers and from the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you for joining us today. It's truly an honor. Like I said, two-time Super Bowl champ, so we're going to get into his career and all, and what was the Super Bowl runs like. But first, how are you and your family doing during this tough situation? Obviously, we're in a new year. I'm hoping for some positive things here, but how are you guys doing down there?
We're doing pretty good. You know, most importantly, just trying to stay out of the way and be safe as much as possible. It's weird, but this has become the new normal, so it doesn't really feel out of whack to live the way that we are living. I think the consensus would say that as well, with some of the transitions that we all had to make, you know, just to try to be smart and safe as possible. So everybody's good. Can't complain at all.
So I'm going to let my co-host start it off first.
Bryant, again, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. I'm curious, because you said this is the new normal. So many things have changed and you've got so many things going on. So I'm curious, all the things that you're involved in right now and all the things that have kind of come to be because of this situation. Like for me, there's been pros and cons for sure, but like we've been able to take advantage of some things. So what all are you up to and what opportunities have kind of come out of this?
That's a good question. I think when the pandemic first surfaced, you know, I just tried to find ways to be creative, and I just started doing Instagram live interviews with a lot of draft prospects that were getting ready to get drafted that just, because they pushed the draft back. So some of the prospects that were getting ready to get drafted, and I had fun doing that. I also interviewed, you know, some current NFL players as well. And that kind of brought on the idea to create a podcast. And I presented that idea to my cousin, Patrick Peterson, because he was the first person that I interviewed. And I'm like, yo, man, did you really enjoy it? I know you're still involved in the game, but how did you feel, you know, the questions? And of course, it was more like just a conversational piece. And he was like, he enjoyed it. So I'm like, would you consider doing that, you know, more often if I can make it happen? Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah. So long story short, I kind of thought of a potential, like, you know, podcast name, how the show could go. And, you know, lo and behold, we were able to create and come up with All Things Covered under the CBS podcast platform. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's been doing pretty good. And now he's kind of enjoying the process because, you know, he's used to being the one that's getting our interview. Now he is doing the interviewing, you know what I mean? So it's been a learning experience for both of us. But I think to answer your question, that's something that I kind of benefited from because of the pandemic, because of the shutdown, just trying to find ways to be innovative. And because of that, came up with a podcast.
Yeah, obviously I love what you guys are doing there. I follow that page all the time, and you guys have good, big-time guests on, and obviously you guys are a great tandem. But I want to get to your career. So when did you start realizing that you can when did you start picking up the football, and when did you start playing football in your career? And who is that one player that you looked up to while growing up in the NFL?
I started playing organized football. I started playing football probably, you know, kindergarten, just outside in the yard with my older cousins. And that's, you know, that was my first intro into the game, you know what I mean? And loving the game. Now, growing up as a youngster, you know, at the time, we only had one television in the house. So my uncle controlled the TV. So I was either watching is my uncle and my grandmother, right? So I was either watching freaking Star Trek,
oh man, or
sports, or The Young and the Restless, like soap operas. You know what I mean? So I had no say-so in the house at the time. So whatever they wanted to watch, my grandma, and because my mom didn't really watch television like that, but whatever my grandma was watching during the weekdays, I was watching everything soap opera related. She used to love all CBS soap operas. Guiding Light was my favorite, by the way. It used to come on 3 p.m. back in those days. And then my uncle, Star Trek and football. So I just kind of gravitated to the game. My first time playing organized football was in third grade tackle. And I just kind of continued to progress, you know, third grade and on. And to answer your second question, who I really looked up to, I was a Giants fan because of Lawrence Taylor. So Lawrence Taylor was my favorite player growing up. And because of, you know, his success with the Giants, I ultimately started to like the Giants as well. So Lawrence Taylor's my favorite player because the way he played the game, you know, he was a dominating force. And, you know, I just love watching him play and just hit people and he was so successful. So Lawrence Taylor's my favorite player growing up, and then eventually as I got older and getting to high school, I became a big time Charles Woodson fan because I was playing in the secondary.
Yeah.
Love that. Legends. Well, I'm loving that you're repping the FSU, Florida State Seminoles. You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers stuff in the back. I think they would love the fact that you're repping them like that. I'm curious, once you got to college, you're surrounded by so many different players coming from different backgrounds. What do you think now that you look back on it? Because you're really well spoken, like you're really motivated. You had a great career in the NFL. What's the difference between players who make it to the league and get drafted versus the ones that either stay in high school or don't make it past college? Because they all want that goal. Most of them want that goal, to step to the NFL. What do you see as the biggest difference and the separator between those kind of players?
The biggest difference, I think, is opportunity, getting the opportunity, and then when you get the opportunity, cash in on it. You know what I mean? When I got to Florida State, I played with some of the best players in the country. I mean, we had the best from California, the best from Texas, the best from Louisiana, the best from the DMV area. Whoever was at Florida State, you were probably considered the best in your state. So we all were like people. We all had the same mentality. I'm the best where I come from, so I should be the best here in Tallahassee. It doesn't always work out that way, especially as fast as we would like it to, but just the grind. So for me personally, I came out, I was the #1 corner in the country, and heck, everybody else that I was there with at some point in time, they were probably the #1 player in the country, the county, or the state. So that was the norm. I think for me, it would just, take advantage of the opportunity. And I don't want to just say that based on field terms, like in between the lines, also in the classrooms. I played a lot of guys at Florida State that were great athletes, gifted, talented, but they didn't apply the same pressure they applied to the football field to the classrooms. And that could become an issue. Coach Andrews, my coach at Florida State, always said, he would tell us, if I can't trust you in the classrooms, how do you expect me to trust you in the football field? Because they go hand in hand. Just because you don't like the classroom does not mean you should fail and you should not try. So if you have that mentality in the classrooms, I can't trust your mental game on the football field. So those are the opportunities that we have when we get to that level, but it's up to the individual to cash in on those opportunities. At first I wasn't a starter. I waited my turn, I grind, I worked hard, and I became a starter, and I didn't let it go. And, I didn't always like school, but I knew I needed to have school in my back pocket to be able to do what I wanted to do in the football field. You know what I mean? Go to class, show up, pay attention, make the grades that you're supposed to make. Because it's free. You go to school for free. You might as well take advantage of it and get an education, right? So those are the opportunities a lot of people don't capitalize on, either in the classroom or in the football field. And that's why, it's so hard to get drafted. You know what I mean? It's a tough process.
So what was the process like when you were getting recruited from high school, and what was it like when Florida State was interested in you, and how grateful are you to be wearing the same jersey as Deion Sanders and Charlie Ward? Because I had Charlie Ward on my show back in the day, and he's such a great player, and obviously played in the NBA and NFL too. So, college football. But for you, what was it like wearing the same jersey as them, and what was like the recruiting process from Florida State?
Well, yo, you on your 650th episode, so you probably done had everybody on your show. You had 650.
Hey, I got more coming.
I'm surprised you remember what episode. I'm surprised you remember what episode this is. Man, I knew I wouldn't. To answer your question, the process for me was unbelievable. That was always a goal of mine, to go to a big time university for free. And I knew playing ball would be my opportunity. Mm-hmm. So growing up in South Florida, playing little league football, I was really good. And, when I got a chance to go to high school, the thing about little league football in South Florida, you might play at a park. And
What just happened?
On varsity, so I got a lot of notoriety from that standpoint. And then sophomore year, I just took off. One thing that really helped me in high school, I had a serious weight room work ethic. I love the weight room, and I use that to my ability to dominate wide receivers. And I just played like Lawrence Taylor was my favorite player growing up, so I was a little pit bull. Like I was trying to bite your freaking head off. Like my inner Mike Tyson would surface, biting your ears or anything I could to cause pain to you on the high school level and to be successful. That's how I was. So my junior year, I made All-State as a junior with the who's of who at that time in the state of Florida. And in my senior year, I just took off. So I became the number one recruited player in the state of Florida. And, I had to pick up the litter when it comes to opportunities university-wise. And I chose Florida State because of the tradition, like you just mentioned. Deion Sanders, Terrell Buckley, Leroy Butler, Clifton Abraham, Samari Rowe, Corey Sawyer. The list can go on and on and on. You know what I mean? And the same guy that coached all those players I mentioned, and there are a lot more. I don't have the time to really name off all those guys, but I respect everybody that came through that university. The same individuals that coached those guys were going to coach me. Mm-hmm. And he was well respected in the NFL role as well. So I wanted to be a part of that tradition, and that kind of made my decision easy. It came down to Miami and Florida State, and I chose Florida State.
Sorry, can you guys hear me? Because my screen froze for like 5 seconds. So can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Hey.
All right.
Well, after you were finished chewing up high schoolers and spitting them out and then going to Florida State, you started in Pittsburgh, got drafted. Your first year, you guys won a Super Bowl. Bill Cowher, coach, legendary coach. But I want to know about that defense, those guys who took you in. You're a great storyteller. I've heard your podcast, and I've heard you on other podcasts. Do you have any funny stories of that first year with those guys kind of welcoming you in and just the culture that they created that got you to that Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was a great culture. I play with great, not football players, but I play with great individuals. I think when you're in a room with great people who you respect and they respect you, success will follow because you're not involved in a toxic type of environment, especially when you talk about something team related when it's not an individual that's involved. So me personally, eventually, as soon as I got there, they kind of welcomed all the young guys. If you were drafted, if you were a free agent, it didn't matter. They treated you as a major part of the team. So a funny story for me, I think would be the rookie initiation, to say the least. I had every positional player as a rookie, you have to take that SEG group to dinner. And the SEG group is the position group. We call it SEG group, right? And I had to take the DBs out to dinner. And I remember at that time, they were like, McFadden, B-Mac, man, make sure you bring your checkbook. I'm like, checkbook? Why am I bringing my checkbook? Because like, we don't know, you probably got a limit on that debit card. So we don't want to have any issues when we get to dinner because we want to make sure you pay for this dinner because that was part of my rookie obligation, right? To take the vets, the entire group out to dinner and pay for the bill. So I'm like, man, this is some BS. So I take my checkbook and I don't even drink, right? So before I even had to get there to dinner, they requested me to buy 3 bottles of Louis XIII. So I don't know if you guys are drinkers or anything like that, but when it comes to alcoholic beverages, Louis XIII is very, very pricey. Mm-hmm. And I'm a bargain shopper. I believe in whatever number you tell me something is, I can get it for lower, or I should be able to if I'm going to try. So at that time, I was like, man, how much this bottle's going for? They kept telling me like maybe like $3,000, $4,000 a pop, depending on where you're shopping at. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I tried. The best deal I was able to get, I think I spent like $2,800 for each bottle. So I had to get 3 of those.
Wow.
And then after that, I bring the bottles to dinner, and then I had to. So luckily, I had the defensive back, so they're not offensive linemen where they have to when they eat a lot. Hey, excuse me for a second. Hey, stop making that noise. You see I'm talking? I'm sorry. That's my daughter. So what happened was when we get to dinner, they order food, order steak, order lobsters, order stuff market price. And you know about market price. They don't have a price on that item. It's really expensive. So I'm sitting here, I'm so sick and I'm so nervous. I don't even order anything. I just got a side salad. Like my whole appetite is gone. Because I keep seeing all this food coming, all these drinks, and they ordering wine. Now, mind you, I'm like, why did I buy 3 bottles of Louis XIII if you already gonna order wine anyway? That didn't make any sense. So I'm just sitting here sick. So the bill comes, and I mean, the bill was like this here long, yo. I ain't never see a bill this long. They had to roll it up. They rolled it up. And I'm like, man. So they sent me the bill like, oh, McFadden got it, B-Mac got it. I looked at the bills, almost like $9K.
Oh my God, what?
Yes, it was like $9K. So that was my initiation to the actual team fulfilling my rookie obligation. I think it was like $8,800 or something like that, but it's almost $9K. I had to write a check out for that. And you talk about someone who's sick. Then the crazy part about it, they started ordering to-go food for the family members at home. I'm like, no, they didn't make it part of our group. What are y'all doing? Like, it don't even make sense.
In addition to the Louis the 13 bottles, like that's not even part of the check.
Yeah. Or no, with the Louis the 13th bottle, it was around $9K. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
And then also too, I had to later in the season, I had to get everybody to New York for our rookie night because we went to New York. So that's a whole nother story. And I had to pay for that as well.
That is insane.
No joke.
Man, your teammates have a big appetite. That's crazy.
Nah, they got a big liquor intake. That's what it was.
Yeah, but obviously your first year in Pittsburgh, obviously you guys won the Super Bowl. So what was that message from Bill Cowher, a legendary coach? He's doing great stuff on CBS Sports now with Nate Burleson, Boomer Esiason, and the rest of the crew there. So what did you learn from him as a coach, and what was that one message he gave you guys for that Super Bowl run, the first Super Bowl run?
One thing I learned from BC's to compete. You know what I mean? Compete and understand what your role is. You know, if it's a big role, you handle it as such. If it's a small role, you handle it as such. And I think one thing that he emphasized during that season, you know, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. And we had a lot of uphill battles throughout that year. But, you know, we always looked at the ending result. And to be able to have the ultimate ending result that we wanted to, we had to catch on fire. You know, we had to hit that consistent stride, and we were able to do so. I think maybe week 12 or week 13th in the regular season, where we just couldn't afford to lose any more ball games. And when we got into the playoffs, we was rolling. Mm-hmm. We had so much confidence. He had confidence in us, and our staff had us so well prepared. We didn't think we could lose to anybody. And that's something that he emphasized. You know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Any fun bus stories, Jerome Bettis, in that year, and just kind of what you took from him, what you knew? Oh,
yeah. Fun story. How nervous he was when he fumbled that football against the Colts.
Indianapolis? Oh, man. And you saved the day.
Big Ben saved the day. I saved the day. Bus owes me a dinner for that, too. He owed me and Big Ben a dinner for that one. You talk about somebody who was nervous. Man, listen, Bus was definitely nervous. When he fumbled that ball, the look on his face coming to the sideline was nothing but, you know, he was just distraught. You know what I mean? He was like, because the game was over. And I know you can't say one play causes you to win or lose a ball game, but that was close. If we'd have lost that ball game, just think about the legacy, right? That conversation, that his ultimate legacy, how would people have looked at him? Granted, I still believe he would have been in the Hall of Fame, but just how that could have impacted his legacy. So that's the funny story I could think of, is the way how sick he was when he fumbled that ball coming to the sideline. And then, of course, the sickness turned into joy when we made them attempt that field goal and they missed it.
So what was it like winning that first Super Bowl title in your first year? And what do you guys do to celebrate after? And obviously looking back at that, the first Super Bowl, and what do you take from that?
First Super Bowl, it felt surreal. It was unbelievable. You know, me as a rookie, I thought I was supposed to go to the Super Bowl every year because that's all I knew. I didn't know not going to the Super Bowl and not winning the Super Bowl. So I didn't know how difficult it was to play in the National Football League to get to that game. So, you know, we get to that game, and like I said, our confidence level was so high. We knew we were going to win. It was just about how much would we win by. You know what I mean? Would it be competitive, whatever the case may be? And not sounding cocky, but that's just how much we believed in ourselves. And we believed in our game plan. And at that time, we were playing do-or-die football, like I said, week 13, week 12, or something like that. We were in game 7, like, mode. So we won it. Man, listen, party? You talk about party? Listen, they need to do like a documentary on that team, because man, listen, my rookie year, man, I don't know how other rookies have what their years like, but my rookie year, man, we lived. We went, you know, we went hard on the football field, but off the football field, we had the same mindset. Wherever we went, we left our mark. The same way we visited the stadium, we're going to leave our mark. You're going to know when them Steelers came through here and they tore it up. So when we went to the Super Bowl, we could do no wrong. I mean, I go back to South Florida, living in South Florida. I go to the clubs on South Beach. Man, they whatever I needed, Like, what, man, we got Super Bowl champion here. This man a rookie, he won the Super Bowl, and I'm from down there. Man, please, it was whatever we rubbing shoulders with the who's of who almost any given night. So that was enjoyable. Like I said, I thought this was supposed to happen every year. I didn't know, no, you don't go to the Super Bowl every year. That was an eye-opening experience when I didn't go. So it was enjoyable.
Man, I can't even imagine what that was like. Well, that year you took down my Seahawks, so impressive win, but heartbreaking at the end for me. Later on, though, you guys go back to the Super Bowl. You face the Cardinals. When was the last time you played a game of Boo-Ray?
Listen, the pandemic has halted my Boo-Ray experiences.
Yeah.
But that game of Boo-Ray, listen, that can change your life for the good or for the bad. I can tell you that much. Boo-Ray is what kept us together. That's what we can't come together and fraternize. But yeah, that night we gambled all night. We played cards all night. Can I say that? We played cards all night. But that's what we did. We did things to keep us together. You know, and we didn't just have a working relationship. We had a relationship outside of the facility. We hung out together. We went to dinner together. We talked on the phone. That's why we were so successful, because we actually knew who we were working with, and we actually liked each other. So to answer that, I tell that story all the time, man. You know how the Giants had the boat trip when they were going to play the Packers? Yeah. For us, we had the card game. And if we would have lost that game against Arizona, and that story came out that we stayed up all night playing freaking Boo-Ray, man, the criticism that we would have, and that's what James Reyes told us before we left his room, because we were in his room playing cards. He said, listen, y'all don't tell nobody this story. Y'all keep this in-house. He said, y'all keep this in-house. Y'all try to get whatever sleep you can get, fit it in there, and let's get ready to play some football tomorrow. So we're like, yeah, because if we lose, because when we got in the locker room, it was so funny. You can tell all the guys that were up all night because everybody's eyes are red. And what it really kind of helped us out, that kickoff was at 6:30. So I got in my room almost 8 o'clock. And I remember I left to go to the stadium like around 2. And I was so mad at myself. I'm like, Mac, why did I do that? That's so dumb. I'm so stupid. Why would I stay up all night? Like, grow up. And we got in the locker room. You could tell everybody who stayed up all night, eyes bloodshot red. Wow. And we walked in, it was like, don't say that. Don't tell nobody.
I have a quick follow-up on that, Nathan, real fast. How did it get to like 8 a.m.? Like, you guys are just, is it just because you guys are so competitive and you just want to keep going and keep playing? Because it is a pretty innocent way to stay up until, those late hours.
Listen, you're talking about a room full of a bunch of alpha dogs. And we don't want to lose. And it was so much flowing on the table. I mean, it was hard to leave. And the intensity in that room was at an all-time high. I mean, it was so much going on, and it was like, wow. And people were sweating. Nobody had shirts on. I mean, you got people talking crazy to each other. And before you know it, man, it's almost 8 o'clock in the morning. What are we doing? But that was a norm for us. We would play cards all night. Like when we have a road trip, we'll fly from Pittsburgh to California, and that flight felt like only an hour and 45 because we on the cards the whole entire time. So that's what we did. So time just went by so fast because there was so much going on. And before you know it, like, man, we got to go to sleep, man. We can't do this. We're doing too much.
Yeah, so obviously you played with the Cardinals after your first year in Pittsburgh, but you played with great players in Arizona like Larry Fitzgerald. He's still going at it. So what was the experience like playing in Arizona? And also, when you went back to Pittsburgh, you played Arizona in the Super Bowl. So what was it like beating Arizona in the Super Bowl after you played with Arizona?
That was a pretty good experience. Arizona is a pretty place. The team was starting to really surface to be a contender because of the Super Bowl meeting against the Steelers. I took a lot of criticism initially because they felt like they should have won the ball game. And I was kind of trying to defend us, the Steelers, my former team, but it felt weird because I was no longer a part of the Steelers. But they welcomed me with open arms. Not to mention, I brought out the game, the Boo-Ray to them.
Yeah.
I brought the Boo-Ray game out to the West Coast, and that was kind of like a form to try to bring us together even more. But that was a good experience. Larry Fitzgerald's an ultimate guy, future Hall of Famer. Look at the Hall of Famers that we had on that team when I played with and I played against in the Super Bowl. Kurt Warner, I think Anquan Bolden will get into the Hall. Edgerrin James just got in this past year. Fitz is going to get in, and EJ wasn't there when I was there, but of course, Quan was my Florida State brother, Fitz, Kirk. All those guys were outstanding. It was a cool experience. And, initially I get traded, like you said, I got traded right back to Pittsburgh. I felt like I should have never left. But sometimes, that's just how the ball in business bounces.
For sure. A lot of things happen for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
Curious about just kind of your opinion and how you remember Big Ben and how he is now. Like, where do you see his future going? Obviously, season ended in not the best way for them this year.
Yeah, I remember Big Ben as a champion. A guy who loved to fight. He helped us win a lot of ball games, and he grew a lot as well. And currently, I think the process with Big Ben and the entire Steelers organization. Anytime they don't reach the Super Bowl or almost reach the Super Bowl, it's a letdown because the standards are so high in Pittsburgh. Who's your favorite team, Alyssa?
Was the Seahawks. I'm kind of like, it's because I was a sports anchor, so I had to be unbiased the last 3 or 4 years. But I've grown up as a Seahawk. Okay,
so with the Seahawks organization, you guys have won one championship, but let's say they had 6 championships, right, through time. I think your expectations of them getting to the championship will probably be higher than what they currently are because of the history of winning championships. That's kind of the situation with the Steelers. Every year, the fans are spoiled. They want to see you get to a championship, and deserving so, because that's what if you grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, if you were born in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s, all you know is competing for championships.
Yeah.
Not too many organizations can say that. Like, I understand you talk about the Patriots and the success they've been having, but they weren't relevant in the 70s. You know what I mean? 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? It happened in 2000s. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were relevant in the 70s, dominated the 70s. It kind of slowed down a little bit in the 80s and then bounced back in the 90s and 2000s. So think about this. You look at the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, only one legit era. I would say the Steelers weren't super competitive, which would be the 80s. Every other era, 70s, 90s, 2000s, they were relevant. And because of that, the expectations are super high. And now that I think of, I don't know another organization that can say they were relevant in so many different eras. That's a good question.
I was trying to think of that too. That's a good point.
How about I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. How about them?
You had the 70s, but you got to realize who halted some of your success in the 70s was us, right? And then you had the 80s. You guys were horrible in the 80s, ugly. In the 90s, so you had the 70s and the 90s, but heck, the 2000s, y'all just been a body.
No lies told.
Y'all just been a body.
Yeah. Hopefully soon we can get back into contention. But it's been a struggle for the Dallas Cowboys for the last 4 or 5 years. So my question is, so looking back at your career, how grateful are you to win 2 Super Bowls, to be able to play with great players on the Steelers and Cardinals, and to be able to play the game that you love and work hard every day to get to the goal, and you got to it. And whoever doesn't know about you as a player, what did you bring to the game?
I really enjoyed my career. I think it ended prematurely, but I was able to at least play and have success and win championships. That's something that I would never take for granted. Me as a player, I try to be physical. Like I said, my favorite player growing up was Lawrence Taylor. So I tried to be physical, and I was able to do that a little bit. And, I had a few successful opportunities in the National Football League. And now, with me making a transition into the media game, I wanted to do something that I felt connected to and that wouldn't feel like work. You know what I mean? And when I played the game of football, it never felt like a job. Right. It felt like me. It was a part of me. It felt like, fulfilling my love, fulfilling my dream. So the next best thing that I could do that can give me that same feeling would be talking about the game, because I don't want to work. I don't want to have a job where it feels like work. That's dumb. That doesn't make sense. That means I'm doing something I don't love, I don't really, really like. And if you don't really like it, if you don't love it, you probably won't reach the pinnacle in which you want to reach, because you really don't like doing what you're doing. So you're not going to go about it 110%. When you like something, when you love it, you respect it. And when you respect it, you're going to do everything in your power to fulfill that enjoyment that's all under that umbrella. It's like a relationship. If you don't really like the person who you're talking to, you might not give them the opportunity to see you smile, or you're not going to try to do the extras to make them smile because I really don't like them like that. Right. It's the same thing when it comes to attacking whatever it is your profession is. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I was able to try to find a way to get involved and just kind of start from the ground up. And I'm still chopping wood. I'm gonna keep chopping wood until this tree fall, and then when this tree fall, I'm gonna find another tree to chop wood at, and I'm gonna just keep chopping wood until I knock down all the trees in the forest.
Yeah, there you go.
I love that. Love that. I do have one last question, just from the broadcast perspective, because going from a former player to the broadcast side, you talk about just bringing that energy, and you've said on a podcast before that on TV you get to show that energy. On radio, you don't really get to show it as much. So what was the hardest thing for you going from being a former player to the broadcast side of things that you noticed right off the bat, like, I got to get better at this to move on?
Being able to simplify what it is I'm talking about, because I have to realize most people that are listening to me or watching me may never have been in a huddle. So I can't have football talk like I would with my friends. When I talk about something, if I have the time to really break it down, I imagine whoever it is that's watching me or listening to me, they're like my 70-year-old aunt, right? She don't know anything about the game of football. She don't know anything about what I'm talking about. But when I'm done, if she learns something from what I said, I did my job. Because I'm a firm believer in when you know what you're listening to, or you understand what you're listening to, or you understand what you're watching, or you know what you're watching, you enjoy it more, right? It's almost like it's like the game of hockey. I never watched hockey growing up, so I didn't like hockey. But then eventually I got into hockey and I learned the game a little more. Now I can sit here and watch people go to war on skates. It makes sense now because I understand what I'm looking at. So my job is to be informative, number one, also be entertaining. Nobody wants to watch somebody who's boring all the time. Like when I was in school, I go to class and I see I got a boring teacher. Now I got to be like, oh boy, I'm a phase out. I'm a phase out because he or she is boring. And I thought about that when I started to get into the media game. I'm like, you know what, Mac? The teachers that I didn't really like were the ones that were boring. And I said, why didn't I like those teachers? Because they were boring, Mac. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So if you're an analyst, if you're a broadcaster, if you're a media individual, do you think someone wants to watch you if you're boring? No. So you gotta slide your personality in there, slide a sense of humor in there that's relatable to whoever it is that's listening to you or watching. Now they might feel more welcoming to listening to you or watching you. So that's all I try to do.
So I want to talk to you about your podcast, and obviously it's growing by the minute, and obviously with Patrick Peterson. So what's it like working with him? And are you guys currently working on some big things on your podcast coming up?
You know, me and Pat, we're family members, cousins. I've been knowing him his whole life. So, you know, that's the thing. It's like I'm not working with someone who I don't know, and vice versa with him. So it's been good. We've been fortunate enough to really get a lot of guests on that we know personally or we know of personally through some of our friendships. And it's been a blessing. It's been real good. We're still learning, you know what I mean? Through repetitions, we're getting better. We're starting to flow off each other a little better as well. And he's starting to really enjoy the process. So it's been good. We just dropped an episode today with Master P on, was real good. Yeah. Nolan the Soldiers. Yeah. So that was real cool. When you guys get a chance, check it out. It's pretty good. The YouTube show with P will drop in a few hours as well, but the podcast is already out. So we just been, we've been chopping wood. We have some big things in the plans, especially when things get back normal, to be able to do it together. And I also too brought to his attention on the show while we were recording, once, he gets into his working, his conditioning part, working out again for the upcoming season, maybe we can kind of follow him through that process, you know what I mean? And add that to the show as well. So it's all about the pandemic. Whatever the pandemic allows us to do, we're going to do it. And if not, we still going to make it happen.
So I got two important questions here. One, we would like to be on your show one day. And also, can we bring on Patrick Peterson on the show too? It would be awesome.
I could try to see what, he a busy man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can definitely see, and yeah, we can definitely work something out. Do a podcast swap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You guys come join. You know what I mean? So usually we have barbershop talk when we got our all male cast, but if we're gonna have Alyssa on, we might have to switch it up to have salon talk. You know what I mean? to cater to what she's used to.
I can hang. I've listened to like 3 or 4 episodes of yours, so
I appreciate it.
I'm entertained.
Appreciate it.
You guys are so fun to listen to. I appreciate it.
So now I do this fun little segment on the show called the rapid fire segment. So we're gonna give you some like quick questions, you to answer them. So I guess I'll start off first here. Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kawhi.
Yeah.
It's weird. Weird. Kawhi.
Weird.
So you go.
Okay. Just initial impression, Kanye West.
Musically, go back to that College Dropout.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All right. Favorite food?
Baked chicken.
Mm.
Mac and cheese.
Your last year playing, who was on the pregame playlist?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Young Jeezy, Rick Ross, Khaled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
Who was the funniest teammate that you played with?
Funniest? Chris Hope.
My last one. Biggest rivalry between you and a wide receiver in the NFL?
Biggest rivalry? That's a good question. I didn't really have big individual rivalries. But team rivalry, I would say clearly is the Ravens. Yeah.
Where do you keep your Super Bowl rings?
I can't disclose that information.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm good. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much. All your insight, fantastic.
No, I got a couple more things. So this is really important. So me and my former co-host Ariel, we partnered up, and she and Elisa also part of it too. Hugh Jackson Foundation. Please go check it out. Obviously, Hugh Jackson, former NFL coach, he's trying to get back into coaching, but he's mainly focused on this foundation, and I'm really proud that we're ambassadors for them. And our goal is to help them with to help prevent human trafficking and making sure these kids and other people make better choices in their lives and make the right choices and make the community safer. So when you get a chance, please check out the foundation, the Hugh Jackson Foundation. They do a great job, and I'm really honored for us to be part of it and be ambassadors for them. And I'm 100% in with them. So that's one thing I want to bring up. And the last 2 things here, this is 2 inspiring questions that I always bring up on the show about late Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and obviously you have a daughter too, so you're a girl dad. So do you guys remember where you were at that day, and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, Kobe is one of my favorite athletes, and I had just landed in Miami for the Super Bowl because clearly that happened right before the Super Bowl. And I just got off the plane and heard the news and was devastated. It really messed up my whole week. And it's crazy. I just thought about it's about to be a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was devastating. That was a heck of a way to start off this horrible year in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. Which was 2020.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Yeah, man. I applaud you guys. Even if I don't get a chance to say that personally, you've been unbelievable throughout this entire process. This is probably the biggest game that we've ever endured when it comes to livelihood. And they've been the best team that you can have together. So keep doing what you're doing. If it was up to me, I would allow all the first responders to attend the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Forget just having normal fans.
Yeah.
Have all the first responders attend the Super Bowl free, especially for the ones that have been vaccinated and for the ones who haven't. Just be smart, social distance at the game, make them feel important and appreciative. So that would be my idea. Forget normal fans. We're not going to get one dime from a fan attendance in this Super Bowl. It goes out to the first responders. Who was willing to come, let's go. Put them up in the hotel.
I like that idea. Let's bring that up to Roger Goodell. I like that idea.
But heck, if you knew Goodell personally, bring it to him.
By the way, hey, you brought up a good. This Friday, we're having Demarius Smith on the show, the NFLPA guy. So I'm going to ask him that.
Let them know. That's my suggestion.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And but there it is. That wraps up episode 663 with two-time Super Bowl champ with Bryant McFadden. You can go check him out on all social media formats. He has a podcast with his cousin Patrick Peterson. That's lit. The podcast is lit, and it was truly an honor for you to be joining us, and obviously the official debut of my co-host Alyssa Charleston. So go follow her too. But you and your family stay safe. Continue success. I'm sure we're gonna stay connected. And let's go.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Thank you, Bryant. That was so much fun.
Oh, no problem. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.